Hey, it's Steph, and welcome to the Straight Up With Steph podcast, where we have real discussions around health and life and just trying to be better at both. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Straight Up With Steph. Today, I sit down with Shelley, who is another co-founder of Hygiene. But that's not all she does. She also owns her own mobile dentistry business, and she teaches at a school. If you haven't heard of Hygiene, what are you even doing? Definitely search them, follow them on Instagram and YouTube. They create such valuable dental how-tos and on all kinds of different topics. I get a lot of questions about scaling or taking x-rays, things that I don't necessarily teach on, and I'm constantly just sending them to Hygiene because likely they've got a video about that. Today, Shelley and I talk about how she started her mobile hygiene business. She started it literally from nothing, from the ground up, and she's got some great tips and advice and just how she did it all. She, like a lot of us, started her hygiene career in private practice. And while there's a lot of great things about working in private practice, there were some things that just weren't the best fit for her. She really wanted to focus on prevention, which she didn't feel like she had the time for in private practice. And she wanted to help people that didn't have access to care. And how cool is it that she created a business that allows her to do both? There are so many alternative careers within dentistry if working for private practice isn't the right fit for you. We just have to know who to talk to, where to look, and really have a passion for what we want to do. We talk a bit also about how her experience has been with Hygiene. By the way, they've got over 100,000 followers on YouTube, many more thousands of followers on other platforms like TikTok and Instagram. She tells us what it's been like creating videos. And then she also has some great advice for people who are aspiring business owners. Shelley is just an incredible example of what can be done when you have the passion, the drive, and the persistence to create something different. I hope you enjoy this conversation today with Shelley of Hygiene. Hello, Shelley from Hygiene. Thank you so much for joining.
I'm so happy to be here, Steph. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I feel like I tell every guest this, but a lot of the guests I've had, I have seen at conferences or online on social media, but there's no time to talk really. So this is just a good opportunity for us to get to know each other. And I'm just very excited to get to know more about you and your career because you've had a very unique career in hygiene.
Yeah, I definitely did not ever really envision where I would be at the beginning, that's for sure.
Me either, but it's just that's how life works, right? That's the fun thing about life is random things just happen and you go with it. How long have you been a dental hygienist?
So I graduated from dental hygiene school in 2008.
Me
So
too.
a
Same.
few years. Yeah. How many years is that now? What are we at? 16, 14, 15, somewhere around there. And you always think, I'll never have experience. Like I never will know what I'm doing. But I feel like we finally know now. We've got skills. We've got many years under our belt.
For sure. I speak often and I know you do too. And I always have to update my bio every year. And it's like every year I'm just adding a year. And this year it's 16. And I'm just like, I cannot believe it's been 16 years. But I know I learn every day, but I feel like I've got a little bit of street cred now because I've been in the
Yeah,
field for a while.
finally. Yay.
Yeah. So what made you want to be a dental hygienist?
Yeah, so be a dental hygienist. My mom was a dental assistant before, or not before, but she was a dental assistant growing up. And she's the one who really encouraged me to be a hygienist. So I actually got hired on at her office, like as an after school helper. And she trained me to be a dental assistant. And she's always like, you should be like what the hygienist is. And she would say, this school has like this program and this school has this program. And she would always just kind of be planting that seed for me to be a dental hygienist. And so I thought, time wise and investment wise, like that seems like a really great opportunity. And I liked what they did. And so she was really the one who encouraged me to become a dental hygienist.
I'm sure there's a lot of things that you like about hygiene, but what's your favorite part about being a hygienist?
Yeah, I always tell my students, because I teach at a dental hygiene school right now as well, and I always tell my students I really love the prevention aspect. I don't really feel like I obviously don't know much about a career before you go into it. I think that's like the hardest part of choosing, right? So just that's tricky for me. But now that I'm on the other end, 16 years in, I really love that prevention aspect, and I don't honestly feel like I get to do it enough. Like I'm limited. which kind of bothers me sometimes. I'm like, I just want to go around preventing. Seems way more cost effective. And I think more people want prevention. We're really limiting hygienists here and not allowing us to do as much prevention as we could. So I really love that prevention aspect.
Well, I guess that's actually a really good segue into my next question. And I feel that there's probably a connection here. When in your hygiene career did you start your mobile hygiene business?
Yeah, so I officially like got all the business license and paperwork in 2020. And
Okay.
that was encouraged of me because a few years before that, it was passed in Utah that we could see patients in homebound or I guess public health settings with a collaborative dentist at the time. And I was interested in that because I don't sometimes love in private practice when we're really driven by numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, several offices I've worked at, every morning it's like, this is how much you're going to produce, and this is what you have to do, and this is what you need to do, and I could definitely have a mindset of like prevention there, but I didn't always like love being numbers driven. Always, I mean, we have to consider that, but also I was teaching, and I had 3 children at the time, and it was hard to find time to work clinically, like for a practice between 8 to 5. I was like, that's too hard. But I wanted to keep my skills fresh, like for my students and then just for myself. And so I was like, I should do like mobile because it can be more flexible in what I want it to be. Anyway, so I was asking all the questions to all the people who helped get the bills passed. And I was really nervous about doing it because there is a lot of legwork to opening your own practice, essentially. And that can feel really scary and overwhelming. And so I just was like, I'm just going to start with like one thing. Jessica Atkinson, my business partner, she always tells me, like, how do you eat an elephant, Shelley? And I was like, you can't. And she's like, no, you could if you did it one bite at a time over a long period
Yeah.
of time. So she's like, just pick out like a tiny little bite, do that one thing until you just check all the boxes. That might take a long time. But so I just started with the business license. You had to pick a name for your business. Like there's a lot of things that go into starting a business, registering with the state, getting a license with your local like business in your city. There's a lot of little steps like that.
How
And
did you
then,
figure all of that? Sorry to interrupt, but
yeah, no,
that
you're
it is a
fine.
lot starting a business. And when I started mine, I was like, what am I like? What do I need to do? I had no idea. And so I hired a coach just for 3 months to help
Mm-hmm.
me with like setting everything up. But how was it just Google and
Yeah.
YouTube and just kind of figured it out really? Okay.
Good question. Well, no, not that, but kind of.
Oh,
So
okay.
I started Hygiene Edge several years before that. That's like I've been running that for 10 years now. And so when we started that, I had no idea like you. I was like, what do I do? So we actually had a local like business center through a college here that they had a free resource to anybody to help start a business. And so we went there. And they're like,
Nice.
you need these like 6 things. And they actually like walked us through the steps and did it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is actually easier than I thought. So I had done it before and I knew actually that it was pretty easy. I mean, it probably would take me 4 hours in total to get all of the everything set up. But sometimes we're
Okay.
like, it's so big and new and I'm going to do it wrong. So look for those resources, I would say, within your community because your city, actually, like your state, they want you to start businesses. Like that's really important for the economy. So they usually have some type of resources like that. So that same year COVID hit and nobody was letting anybody into like nursing homes. And then I got pregnant. I had my fourth boy.
Oh my
And so
God.
I started everything, but I didn't see a patient till like 2 years later. When finally, one of the girls who was doing it in St. George, Danielle Evans, she's an amazing dental hygienist. She's probably the guru of mobile dentistry than myself. She's amazing. And she said, I need somebody to see this patient. She's moving up north. I'm too far to come and see her now. She is a dental hygienist with Alzheimer's. You have to see her. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is very important to me now. Like she needs oral health and nobody else is available. So I was like, I'm the one. And so I literally, I had instruments from school and I had collected a few little things along the way. And sometimes I remember thinking, like, I can't just start with the basics, I have to be like clear up here and have it perfect before I can start. But then I thought, there's nobody else to see her. I'm just going to take what I have, which was good, still safe and ethical and sterilized and all the things. And I put it all in a suitcase and I went to see her. And so I just wheeled in with like my little travel suitcase and saw her. I initially had her like spit in a cup, and I would have her rinse with like through a straw. I mean, it was a little bit, I would say, ghetto. I feel bad for some of my first appointments, but like she got excellent care, even though the
I'm
rinsing
sure.
was a little weird.
Yeah.
She's like, okay, I'll spit in this cup. She was so kind to me. And she still like had a lot of dental knowledge. So she was asking me all these things. And even though she was in this setting, so I was really grateful to be able to have a hygienist be my very first patient. She was so kind and considerate. And then over time, just like word of mouth, I got more patients. And then, now finally I have like better equipment and a mobile section that can also connect to my ultrasonic unit. It's pretty loud, but it's what I have, and it's what's getting me to those patients so that they can get really great care. So that's kind of how it began.
I think we all get in that paralysis at the beginning, because I remember I was like that too. I was like, no, I have to be perfect before I start doing things. And
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to be perfect, it's like we help people to the extent that we can, and then over time we just grow and are able to provide more. But
Yeah.
even at the base level, our service is still very valuable and needed. With your business, are you, because I guess there's different aspects to mobile. People have vans or they're going into facilities. So
Mm-hmm.
which one is your business?
Yeah, so I just take all of my equipment in my own car, and then I lug it all in to their house or their room, whatever facility they are in. I could go to schools. I haven't done that yet. It's on my bucket list. Any public health setting, I can take all my materials into. I started that route because it was less expensive than a van, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Because also because it's still really hard to get patients out and into a van if they're also immobile. And so I just thought, I'm just going to take it to the people as much as possible. But that means I have to be really strong. Everything is heavy.
Yeah.
I have to like
Yeah.
lug it in and set it up, and I'm sweating, and it's like a lot of work, but that's super, super rewarding. So that's why I did not choose to do the van route. But vans and like a mobile, you know, sometimes maybe they're like a camper, maybe not a camper, but, a little bit bigger where you can see maybe a few patients. Those are also really successful models as well, especially if you're like seeing kiddos, or sometimes in different states you can see any patient, not just ones in public health settings, which I would love for every state to have that someday. Wouldn't
I
that be
know.
amazing, just to prevent
Yeah.
for anybody? It would be so awesome. But yeah, there's lots of different models, and I too, like if I wanted to go full time with this, I think I would totally get a van. I think that would be super valuable to just like keep everything in one space. It's easy to transport. I definitely think that I would do that. But where I'm just doing it part time, I'm like, I can keep my equipment in my little, space in my house and take it whenever I need to. So there's a lot of new, really exciting models when it comes to mobile dentistry. Honestly, I feel like every practice should have a mobile option. I know that
Hmm.
sounds a little bit crazy, but like,
I don't think it
hire,
sounds
I mean,
crazy.
a hygienist could do several different practices, but man, if you had a mobile option and you could do more telehealth, and the dentist, instead of going into the office between patients and chilling, they could make a little extra money and do
Yeah.
some telehealth dentistry with our hygienist who's out, like working their patients who are homebound, which there's a lot. As you look at your practice, I feel like there's probably several patients who could really use that and might be a great way to like earn a little extra like side income. I've been thinking about it lately too. I'm like, is it almost like, this maybe is extreme, but like, is it abandonment if we can't go see our patients who are not in mobile settings? Like, oh, I can't see you. You can't, like, if you're not, unless you come to me. That's how I feel like we're leaving them in the dust a little bit, So
Yeah.
I kind of wonder if we need to rethink that a little bit, and there's some opportunity to make money and help patients at the same time.
Well, there's huge opportunity there. It reminds me of restaurants that have their brick and mortar restaurant, but they also have a food truck. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just increasing their exposure and their access. For us, it would be access to care. I mean, we all know what a big problem that is. When
Mm-hmm.
you go places, you said that you bring everything with you. So is that like the patient chair, obviously all your instruments, do you have a cart that provides like power and suction with a compressor?
Yeah. So I have a mobile unit that has a high speed suction, slow speed suction. It can attach a drill. I've not ever done that yet, but then
Okay.
it has an air compressor in it, and then they make them nowadays where they're super quiet. They've really in the mobile world is a little bit new, but they're improving on the technology to make them really lightweight and very quiet, because mine is heavy and loud. And
Okay.
so that is
I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you use ear protection?
I do have ear
Good. Okay.
protection that I
Good.
can pop in there. But they're through Zound.
Oh yeah, I haven't tried that
Yeah.
one personally, but I've heard about it. I use the ear racer. That
Yeah,
one's my favorite.
they're like they're noise canceling.
Yeah,
Because yeah, it is definitely, and I
I've
feel
heard those
bad for my
before.
patient. Yeah, I've heard so bad for my patient. I'm like, this is gonna be really loud, and then I'll turn it off as soon as I'm not done using it because it's so loud.
Yeah.
But that's just my unit. So they've made
Yeah.
some. Dental Works is one that makes one that's really high end, quiet, small. They have small to big. Like it really depends on what you feel like you want to do with your mobile option. If you want to be more stable in an area, you could go bigger. But if you want it really mobile and compact, they have those options too. And then I have a cart. Instead of my suitcase, I did upgrade to a cart. It's from Home Depot, but they actually, like these mobile dental companies, they actually make like really nice like totes now that you could get. But at the time when I started 5 years ago, I just bought a Home Depot like tool cart, and it
Mhm.
still works great for me today. I just wheel it in behind me, and it has little drawers, and it fits all my things, and I love it so much. And then sometimes if I don't take like my bigger unit, I do have like a smaller portable suction that just is like slow speed. So sometimes I might take that instead, depending on the setting. And then I also have a chair. And the hygienist, when I first started, who encouraged me, Danielle, I was like, these chairs are expensive. And I was like, I don't know if I'm really going to like this or not. This is so new. I've never seen it done. Like, not a lot of people are doing it. Like, I don't know if I want a big chair. And she was like, just buy one of those like chairs that you get for your lawn. Yeah,
Yep.
have you seen those zero gravity
Yep.
ones? So you like
Mhm.
I love those actually. I We need to make one that's more dental oriented because the top is a little bit wider. She's actually adapted hers. She had a welder like adapt hers. I haven't done that, but they're so lightweight. And then the patient, my patients are mostly, they have a hard time moving. So they can just shimmy right up to it. It's really low and we can lower them in and it's wide. And then I just can push it back and they go back and I can pull it up. I don't have a button that moves them. Usually most of my patients have been really obese. And so
Okay.
it makes it, I mean, that I can pick them up and tip them back real easy.
Okay.
And I like that because it's really portable and easy to use. So, if there's a company out there that wants to like collaborate on making a better one of those, I like that better for my patients because they all need some of the chairs I see that are mobile are teeny tiny. So we can carry them and they're really lightweight. But I like this one because it's nice and wide, lightweight. But it is a little bit hard to get to my patients sometimes. So ergonomically, you don't watch me.
I would never
I
judge.
do,
I know
I do
mobile's
say,
mobile's totally different, with ergonomics. And I've had some people message me and they're just like, this is so hard, and it's like
no.
we do the best we can.
Yeah, that's why I definitely don't see more than one patient a day.
I was going to
I,
ask you, are you
yeah,
going in and trying to knock out a bunch of patients at one
yeah,
facility or okay.
yeah. Well, sometimes I'll see multiple, but most of the
Okay.
time I'm like, my body can't do it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I usually I usually try to book them out like one a day. And then there's some like, I have like a husband and wife team, they're so cute in their double room nursing home together. And it's
Aw.
like, I got to see you both on the same day. I don't want to come back because their family's there and like they have to fill out all the paperwork. So it makes sense to do them together. But most of the time, it's just one person at a time because it is hard on your body. You're having to lean and they cannot move very well. One patient was on hospice. He was in his bed. He passed away like 2 weeks later. The film was like, we can't even get him out of bed, but his mouth is bothering him so much. They're like, what can you do? And I was like, oh yeah, let me come and
Yeah.
treat him. And I literally like sat on his pillow above his head to do
Okay.
his, a ways. I mean, I tried to do the best I can to adapt while I'm towards and keep my ergonomics really good. But there's some positions I really have to like use some unique positions, and I'm always like, core. I'm gonna bend, but I'm gonna like flex. This is gonna be a yoga pose at the same time for strength instead of like, oh, I'm gonna hunch over. I always think
Yeah.
like have great posture while you're leaning in this moment, and then have to take breaks kind of often and be like, okay, gotta stretch to get
Yeah.
this
Love those
area.
micro breaks. Like
Yes.
everyone needs to do those. It's funny. I bet you're in positions and you're like, I was not taught this in school.
No, I definitely was not. And it can be quite the challenge. But the nice thing about mobile and me scheduling my own patients is that I have those times for micro breaks.
Hmm.
Like private practice, they were like, Shelley, you need to run and all day long, and we're not going to give you much of a break. And sorry, we have all these patients to see. And so it is nice to have a little more flexibility with my time. Time is always money. So sometimes you have to think about that. Maybe you have to just charge a little bit more if you know that it's going to take you a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I'll adjust my fees for patients. So um, it's a really different and unique setting that is very, very rewarding.
I bet. And because you're serving patients that otherwise probably wouldn't get care or not great
No.
care anyway. Because not
Yeah.
everyone in those facilities really are trained on oral hygiene. What is
Hmm.
the like what population do you serve mostly?
Yeah. Yeah. So mostly I'm seeing the elderly.
Okay.
I mean, not maybe they're not always elderly, but they're in some type of facility, nursing facility, a care facility, or they're on hospice at home. So
Okay.
those are mostly that but I can see like children and other settings, but mostly that's where I've been. I have not even advertised my business. I don't even have like a Facebook page or a website. It's mostly just honestly through word of mouth that I have gotten my patients, and I kind of like that. I have not tried to advertise because I'm busy with a lot of other things, but I do
Oh,
love being able to see the patients that I do have. So keep it on the DL. But yeah, so mostly in nursing home settings, which is kind of tricky because I'll go in and be like, when I first started, I was like, I need to find patients, right? And the nursing homes are like, well, we can't let you advertise here. We can't tell them that you're even available. And I'm like, can you put me in a newsletter? They're like, no. And I was just like, how do families know that like a hygienist exists, that I can come in and do this? This seems
yeah.
like it should, honestly, like it needs some major reform, but oral health just needs to be added to every care facility, every hospice program that's out there. It just needs to be mandated. I mean, I say
Yeah.
mandated. That's like a 20-year battle of uphill, but everybody in those settings should be receiving. They should have a dental hygienist on the team. They could be at multiple facilities. The dental hygienist is training people, the staff every day on how to care for patients' teeth, because they might brush, but they don't do it well. It
Yeah.
might just be the front teeth. They are afraid to go to the back. Sometimes they get bitten. There's just like things that it's really hard to do. So I definitely don't blame them. But if they have support from a dental professional, that would help. And then they need care cleanings every 3 months, silver diamine fluoride all the time, slathering it everywhere, root surfaces for prevention, occlusal surfaces, because it is very difficult to take any patients out of the facility and get a restoration. So it would be cool if they had a dentist, a dental office like area, and a dentist on staff too to come, but they're just so busy in their private practices that sometimes it's hard financially to have a dentist. So I'm like, let's just do more prevention.
Yeah.
Like let's have a massive preventive team, and then we can bring a dentist in, a little less often. But if they had that and if it was mandated, it would be so much better. I even asked a nursing home person who's like, he owns a bunch of nursing homes. I said, what would it take to get dental in your buildings? He goes, only unless it's mandated. He said, there's these people who come around. I don't know who they are. People who come around and they look at the patients in a nursing home and they kind of give the nursing home like a grade, or you kind of get fined, I guess you could say, if they have like bed sores or their feet are not looking good. Like if they're not being taken care of, they get fined. And I was like, could we add dental to that? Like if they pull up the lip and there's red bleeding gums that you could just see, like, could they be fined so they'll actually start taking care of their teeth? Because I feel like having your teeth brushed daily is not optional. Like it's as
No,
important to me as like the down under care,
like wiping your butt,
taking
right?
care. Yeah. Yeah. You can
Yeah,
say it that way. I always say down unders, but I'm like wiping your butt. Yes. It is
I'll say
just as,
it.
yeah, it is just as important as that. Like if you think of your oral health right now and how well you do it, like if you are in a nursing home someday, Steph, you're not going to get that done. You
It's so
cannot do it
scary.
yourself, and you're not going to get it done, and you're going to get disease, and it's going to transfer to your lungs, and you might get pneumonia. But if we can just have better toothbrushing, even if it's once a day, I mean, I would love twice a day. I'm currently doing, like, my family always tells me I'm brushing my teeth way too often. They're like, you're always brushing your teeth. But I'm like, if we could mandate this more, or mandate it to be done and done well, it would just improve overall health. I think it needs to be, but I'm still a little voice talking to the world about these things.
Well, and I know you're not the only one that feels this way, and I feel like the population at large understands how important oral health is, but the cards are stacked against them. Like things aren't hygienists aren't commonly out there doing what you're doing, and
Mm-hmm.
access to care is a huge issue. But how cool is it that you, because of your passion for prevention, and it seems like you really have just like a service mentality, like you just want to help people, that you've created a business that allows you to do both. What happens when patients do need, because you mentioned a collaborative agreement with a dentist. So
Mm-hmm.
first off, what does that mean? And then also, how do patients get a filling done? Like, are you doing the exams as well and then referring out?
Yeah, good question. So, when we first passed this bill in Utah, we needed a collaborative agreement. Then we found that dentists that we collaborated with could suddenly say, I don't want to collaborate with you anymore. Then I can't see all my patients.
Mm.
I'm leaving them abandoned. So then we went and lobbied and said, we need to get rid of these collaborative agreements so the hygienist could go. So we passed that. So now I don't even have to have a dentist collaborating with me. I do have to submit the right documentation to the state that I am going around and doing this. And, but we don't have to have that collaborative dentist anymore, which is kind of interesting. Because I still have to refer my patients to a dentist. So they have to sign a document that I am a public health hygienist treating them in this public health setting. They have to give consent. Whoever's in charge of them has to give consent, or if they're lucid, they can give their own consent. And then I do just say, you have to go see a dentist, and I just leave it up to them. Some
Okay.
tell me straight up, I'm never going. And I'm like, ooh, okay. I might when they say that to me, I document that. That's really
Yeah.
important. But I did inform them that they do need to go, and they're just like, do as much as you can to prevent. I have one patient who they're probably on a verge of an abscess. I just keep slathering the SDF in there to prevent caries from progressing into that pulp chamber, because that stimulates our tertiary dentin to regrow. So I'm hopeful that it's laying something down, because if they get an abscess, I mean, that could be the end of life for them.
Yeah.
And the family's like, I can't take them out. My one patient had an abscess. my hygienist patient, she had an abscess. It took 3 months of me continually emailing, how can I help? Can we get her into the dentist? She has an abscess. And they're just like, it's so hard because we live far away. She's incontinent. She's hard to move. And so there's a real barrier there. So bringing prevention to them is super key to these patients.
Yeah, God, it's got to be heartbreaking sometimes as a clinician to see that, but also we do have to, I mean, our patients have autonomy. They can decide what they all we can do is just let them know like what's
Yeah.
coming. But it's,
Yeah.
it's up to them. So
Yeah.
I know that I mean, obviously we've talked about your mobile business. You also teach at a school. You also co-own Hygiene Edge, which is a just in my opinion, like one of the most valuable social media accounts out there. Have you always had this more entrepreneurial type spirit?
Yeah. Well, thank you for your compliment there on Hygiene Edge. We work really hard to make those really short, sweet educational videos. But so when I was in hygiene school, I just had this like feeling that I was supposed to do something bigger, I guess. I
Mhm.
was like, maybe I'll write a book. I don't know exactly what it's going to be, but there was just always something in my mind like there's something bigger for you, maybe more important, and I don't know, um maybe that was my entrepreneurial spirit. My husband also runs the entrepreneurship program at a local college, and so
Okay.
I think that I go and hear a lot of those speakers on entrepreneurship like early on because he had that job when I was in hygiene school. And I didn't ever see myself as like a business owner. Like my parents never owned a business. They never went to even college. And so it was never planted in my mind like you could start a business. It was really when I met the right people through, we were working together at the time, but so networking and strategy, brainstorming and dreaming and having a desire that we were like, oh, we should like make this into a business. And then like, we bite off those little pieces of the elephant and do a little bit here and here. And then it just developed into something big. And I don't think it would have been as big without a collaboration for me, Jess and Malia and one of our original owners, Candy Kid. We kind of all pushed each other to improve and be better. And so, man, somebody starting off fresh and do it like you've done, I'm just like, bravo, you like did that all on your own. I'm like, I needed people. And I think because I ran Hygiene Edge, then I was like, oh yeah, I can totally start my own business doing mobile. That doesn't seem so scary
Yeah.
anymore, but it can feel really overwhelming to be on your own. So if you have an idea, of course, like network to people, and not that you have to like bring them on as business partners, but like, yeah, chat with other people, see what they're doing, observe. And I feel like starting a business is big and scary, but you really have to look at your desire. Like my goal honestly was to be flexible with my work. Mainly that was because I had children. And so I started not being able to put in the usual 9 to 5. So I was like, how can I set my own schedule? And that was really only through being able to start my own business, I felt like. So everybody's going to have a little bit of a different need in their life, but I would say
Yeah.
just go for it.
Yeah, it's that's such great advice. And I tell people who I get asked a lot about starting a business or social media speaking, whatever. And it's like you think about what you want your life to look like. Do you do better with a structure, a 9 to 5 type thing? Do you do better as a quote unquote employee? Um, or do you like to travel? I mean, speaking, there's a ton of travel involved there. But it's like figure out what you want and you want your life to look like, and decide then figure out what jobs or what businesses will help support that. But it's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times it's the other way around. We plan our life around whatever job we happen to have, and then we end up resenting that job because it's it's not what we want anymore.
Mm-hmm.
um how has I know that you teach at school, but I mean you're also teaching through Hygiene Edge, and you're able to reach such a bigger audience with Hygiene Edge. I mean, obviously teaching your students is valuable, but how has that experience been just, starting the company? By the way, I interviewed Jess last week, and she just had you have the best things to say about your partners, and she did. You guys are just awesome. But how has that been, like, just starting that company and seeing where you are now?
It has been weird. Mainly because I'll go somewhere, like to an event, like maybe ADHA, and people just like come up to me and they're like, "Hey, I love what you're doing," and I was like, people are actually watching. Like, thank you. Like, this is for you. Like, my goal was always, when we started Hygiene Edge, I was like, we need to do these videos and they need to be free for
Hmm.
everybody. And I was like,
Hmm.
how can we make that happen? Because I don't want to put them behind a paywall and make people pay for this. Like, they need great education that is accessible so we can make dentistry better. So I was like, whatever we do, we have to make that that's like our main goal, you know? And so to hear people be like, thank you so much, and to see my like goal help someone else and improve and not be so scared and improve patient care, like, has been, like I said, weird, but also it's been rewarding, right? It's just like so amazing to be like, I'm so grateful I helped the one. Like, that was my, like, even if it was just one, I'm so grateful that I get to do what I get to do because of, this small desire and love for dentistry in my heart.
Well, I love your original mission, and you don't want to charge for it. But how cool is it that you're still able to provide free content for people who need it? However, you're also able to get paid. I mean,
Yeah.
that's like the ultimate dream. And also congratulations for hitting 100K on YouTube. I'm sure that you're over that now. But God, that is such a huge accomplishment. That's not an easy platform to grow on.
No, and
It's tough.
especially when it's only dental professionals.
Yeah, it's
Like,
very
if it
niche.
was if it was the world, like Teeth Talk Girl, she's got the world. Everybody has
Hmm.
teeth, so she's got a lot of subscribers. So to get to 100K with just dental professionals was very rewarding. We got that silver play button. I always tease, like, I got a plaque because I teach people how to remove plaque.
Nice.
And everybody looks at me when I'm like, yeah, we got our silver play button, and they're like, well, who cares? But my kids are so cute about my silver play button. They took it to show and tells.
Oh,
My one son, he's 7. He like slept with it for the first week after we got it home. It's literally like, it's kind of a flimsy plaque, but it's silver. It says YouTube. It's
yeah.
it's pretty cool, but it's not like actual silver. It's like a
Yeah.
plating, but they are very proud of me. So when they're proud of me, I'm just like, I love that moment so much. So I'm I do it for them.
That's awesome. Yeah. How do you always, because you guys put out a lot of content, how do you keep coming up with fresh ideas for content?
Yeah, so it's always based on what we're doing right then in clinical dental hygiene. It's like, oh my gosh, I did this with my student last week. I need to educate others on this. This is a concern. Or we'll go to a big meeting and I'll learn about something new. And I'm like, that needs to be broadcast to every dental hygienist across America. Like, povidone iodine, I learned about that through Elevate Oral Care, and Jeremy Horsekeeper is the big guru on that. And I was like, we need to be slathering that stuff on everybody's teeth who's higher risk every month. So I think that, yeah, it's based on new products that companies are promoting, as well as what we're just doing every day in our clinical lives. And sometimes we're not that consistent with content always. Life gets a little bit busy. So
Yeah.
it's definitely going to be a lifelong project of educating. And I look back and I see our first videos and I'm like, ugh, they're so bad. Maybe
Isn't
you
it
think the
cringy?
same thing. Yeah, you like look back at your first videos and you're like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh. But guess what? You started. And
Yeah.
I think that deserves a round of applause. And and then you've improved, so I can see over time, like, I'm a self-taught video editor on Hygiene Edge. I don't outsource those. Like, I feel like I need to get it very right and exact, and I don't want somebody else who doesn't know dentistry doing it. So I was like, I'm gonna self-teach myself how to like edit this on Premiere Pro, which is like the worst software to ever use. It's like so detailed. um but it's just really, yeah, overall super rewarding, and that's how we get the content, is just everyday life.
Well, and the fact that you practice, I mean, in different aspects, all of you guys, and that you teach, I feel like there's just going to be constant inspiration for content. Not to mention, I get a lot of ideas from comments, and people are
Hmm.
like, "What about this? What about that?" I'm like, "Oh my God, that's a great idea for a video." Stuff I wouldn't have even thought of. So that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, I think so. um yeah, sometimes you probably have a long list, right? Like,
I
I
do.
mean,
It's
we
in my
have a
phone.
long list. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just constantly same with podcast guest and ideas. So I've got
Uh-huh.
two lists going and it's like I'll never get
Yeah.
through it, but that's fine. Like I just want to make sure
Right.
I have ideas. So
Yeah.
before we wrap up, since you have started multiple businesses now, what advice would you have for someone who's wanting to start something of their own?
I would say 100% do it. You might feel like everybody else is doing it, but it's not you doing it.
Hmm.
So I think we need a lot more people. I'm just inviting the world of dentistry to come on board. I've always thought, man, why aren't we like plastering how to brush teeth on billboards and improving oral health through like public health measures? Because it's costly. And so I've
Yeah.
always thought we need more hygienists on social media educating, whether it's dental professionals or whether it's patients. Like, we need your voice. So I would say start it. I mean, if that's a social media thing, or if it's a product idea, meet with the right people, network. Like, your ideas are valuable and important. And if you believe in you, then others are going to believe in you. So, just like Steph and I on our old videos, it might be a little bit cringe at first, okay? But in that moment, you're doing your best. And then when you know better, then you do better, and then you do better, and then you do better, and then you help others and you mentor, and you can do all these really great and amazing things ultimately to provide better oral health for patients. And so I would say follow your desire and network with others to make it happen. Make it happen, because there's space for all of us,
Yeah.
and we need you.
I think that's great advice. I had this too when I first had the idea of ergonomics. I was like, well, there's already other people doing this. Like, why would I think that I would have any success? And I'm just so glad I didn't listen to that stupid little voice. And I think that a lot of people have that too, but there is room for everyone. And yeah, if you have the passion for it, just go for it. I do think, wouldn't it be fun if like all of us content creators had a day where we just posted our first video, like just for fun? Because
Let's
mine
do
was
it.
terrible. I used to use those heavy filters, like, you could barely even tell what I looked like. My boyfriend looked at one once, he was like, "What? This doesn't even look like you." And I'm like, "Okay." Um,
Oh
but
yeah,
I
we
heard
should do it.
I heard something from, I think it was Gary Bird, I don't know if you know him, but he was like, "If you look back at something that you created a year ago and you're not embarrassed, you're doing something wrong, because we should always be growing." And I'm like, okay, well, I'm definitely doing stuff right, because I can look at something 3 months ago and sometimes I'm embarrassed.
Yeah.
It's all about growth.
I'm gonna remember that. That's important, because I feel like that
Yeah.
way often, and I think it's a bad thing. And I'm like, I'm gonna give up, and then no, I'm not. I'm gonna be like, I'm doing
No.
great.
Yeah, yeah, it's all good. And Jess said this last time too. She was like, there's beauty in the humanness of us creating, and people don't resonate with perfection. People resonate with you being human. And
Hmm.
I've looked at a video and I had a piece of blueberry in my teeth and I'm like, I'm not re-recording this whole thing. I'm posting it, and it like turned into a joke and it was fine. So definitely don't have to be perfect.
Oh my gosh, yeah, those moments. Oh.
I know, I know. So I'm sure that people already know Hygiene Edge and how to contact Hygiene Edge, but if somebody wanted to contact you, what's the best way that they can reach out to you?
Yeah, on Instagram, I'm Shelley with an EY, the hygienist. So Shelley the hygienist. And then you can always email me, Shelley@hygieneedge.com. I'd love to connect.
Awesome.
Or
Well, I will
LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll put links to your social media handles and your email and stuff in the show notes. But thank you so much, Shelley, for your time. You're just a wealth of knowledge on all kinds of things. So I appreciate you.
Thanks so much, Steph, for having me.
All right. Thanks everyone for listening, and we will see you next time.